guys, Dodie here from Lane Wild Designs and one of the artists and creators from Paint Couture Paints. And I'm here to show you how I use texture on canvas. It's one of my favorite things I love to do, no matter if I'm doing a abstract or I'm doing realism on my canvas. I like to use embossing medium or crust. Here I mixed it with a paint. You don't always have to, it's just something I wanted to do this time, so I mixed it together. You really don't need a whole lot of paint. I actually added way too much, so I scraped a little bit off of it and just put it in another location on my canvas, which is no big deal. So what I did was actually take some of the embossing medium out of the container with a spatula that I had and put it on there, and I'm just applying it on there. I actually turned my canvas to the side a little bit just so I can have better control. So I'm still just applying it. In just a minute after I apply the color where I want it to, no special way. You want to make sure though that you hold your canvas not flat on the canvas, because it will pull and it will grab and grip your canvas, and you don't want to do that. So you want to hold it at an angle to apply your embossing medium. Now, if you feel like it's leaving you lines on your canvas and you don't want that, you want to make sure you wipe your paint off of your trowel as much as possible, because that will help you to have a smooth canvas. Now, as you can see, I'm going really fast over it, because after I apply my embossing medium, I go over it really fast with the trowel. And I call this a skim coat, which means I don't, you can see the lines right here. You see how they have lines above where I'm actually painting right now? That's what I want. It makes like a little ripple effect. So when you go back over it after you apply it, I'm still just kind of going over it. So you see how I apply it really fast? It makes a ripple over the embossing medium that's already applied on the canvas. So you want to hold it very lightly in your hand when you go over it. Right here, I'm using a smaller spatula, applying a mixed color of Spanish Sunrise and Modern Rattan, which was a mixture I got from Paint Couture Paint. And I thought it was a pretty color, so I decided to use it with the blue, knowing I was going to paint over it anyway. So what I did was I just kind of did a light dry brushing with the spatula. So I went really light over the high points of the embossing medium, because just remember that I had to let the embossing medium dry before I applied this color, so I can apply the next color of paint. So right here I'm actually adding Deep Lake, and I decided to add water to it because I love the organic feel of these colors together and the organic feel that the drips have. So I don't want huge dramatic drips, so after I sprayed it and the water kind of falls, I kind of brush over it where the drips fall at the bottom, and I just want a softer look to this color, especially in the places where I didn't apply the rust look color that I mixed. So I'm just loving, enjoying the process. Not sure where I'm going to go with this yet, but I do love the organic feel it gives when I do add the water and it gives drips. So, and it goes over the texture from the embossing medium. So you may want to do something different with your embossing medium, which is fine. There's so many different things you can do when you paint with embossing medium, on how you want the texture to look, how you want to apply it with your trowel, how you want the embossing medium to move over the canvas. You can do anything on how you use your trowel. There's so many different ways. And if you ever want to try it, don't be scared. Reach out to me. We can go over it in detail depending on what look you're going for. So here I decided I was going to start layering my neutrals. So right here is Charlotte Gray. So Charlotte Gray is actually a gray, but it has a little more of a warm undertone to it. And it doesn't look like it right here, but it does. And the reason it doesn't is because it's against a warm color. So it makes the cooler tone out of the gray come out. So I'm just kind of taking the spatula and going over the high points of the embossing medium. And this is going to be covered. So what my intentions are is to make it look like it's actually coming off the canvas by adding warm and cool neutrals over this. So I started with the Charlotte Gray. I'm going over the whole piece with the Charlotte Gray. So as you can see, I'm holding my spatula, not bending my wrist. I'm holding the spatula on the end of the handle so I don't have so much control, because I want it to be a light skim coat coverage over it in different areas. So it looks a little bit dramatic and intense right now, but don't worry, that's going to be covered. And I'm still going with it. And I guess also I could have used a little bit of water with drips in some of these areas with that. I think that would look good too. But I'm actually, right here, I'm scumbling, which is brushing hard with the filbert brush. Right here, I'm dry brushing. So there's a difference. The scumbling looks more like a fog. The dry brushing is just skim coating. So I'm holding the handle way on the end so I don't have a heavy hand on the brush. I just kind of want the brush to do the work. So I'm just kind of go over with the high points with, I think this is Charlotte Gray still. Charlotte Gray. And I'm just kind of going over it. I added a little bit of Sophia. I mixed a little bit of Sophia with Charlotte Gray. And I just skim coated over the area. And Sophia is a really beautiful light blue tone that I got for the first time, and I love it. And so I mixed it with a little bit of Charlotte Gray, and it just lightened it a bit. And it almost, and look at how it almost looks like a waterfall. So when you do like a scumbling effect, it almost looks like a foggy look. And I just went over it lightly and went from big swipes to small swipes as I went down, and it kind of almost looked like a waterfall effect. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm going over it. So this is a more of a cool gray, a cool neutral, and as you can see, it almost looks like it's 3D whenever it's against these other neutrals. And this is actually Candlelight that I'm brushing over it right now. So I'm just going back and forth and dry brushing with different colors on the side of my brush and holding it at the end. And that's the trick to just getting the coat over the high points. So right here, I'm just going down a little bit more paint in some areas. So I'm just leaving brush strokes and brush marks. And right here, I'm using a wood block to add Sophia. And I'm going up and down with it. And I wanted to add Sophia in smaller areas. So I used a smaller spatula, as you can see. So using different tools makes for different texture and movement. This is a small spatula, so I'm adding water to it just because I want it to go up. But I want it to go from a wider to slimmer as it goes up because it makes some more dimension that way. And right here, I'm just going over it with Charlotte Gray and Sophia blend because I wanted to give like a two-tone effect to it. I wish y'all can see this up close. It looks like it's three-dimensional. And that was what I was going for. I was trying to add, background, middle ground, and foreground to this piece. So after I did this Sophia and Charlotte Gray blend, I added a little bit of Candlelight. Now, I think this is Candlelight that I added. So Candlelight is a warmer neutral tone, very beautiful, soft, neutral, warm color that I love so much. And this is actually modern rattan that I'm going over with it. Now I'm adding a little bit of my favorite gold. It's Gold Mine Lux Metallics. I'm just kind of playing with it and seeing where it goes because this is not how this piece ends. it went a total different direction. And that's okay, because, you know, that's what we do sometimes. And, you know, on canvases, it just takes you in different directions sometimes. And that's okay. So right here, I'm using a wooden square block. You know, this thing is so fun. So I use different instruments because it gives different types of texture. So I'm actually going sideways and then going back down, and as I go down, it has less paint, so it really gives like a faded effect. So right here, I'm actually watering down my paint. I'm using Misty Fjord. I use Misty Fjord and Candlelight. So Misty Fjord is a soft gray green, as you can see here, and when it blends with the Candlelight just a bit, it really gives some dimension and texture to it. So you have visual texture and you have physical texture, which is awesome. I mean, why not have both? So I want it to kind of blend in just a little bit, but you want to make sure when you use it on your trowel, and I'm adding water because I don't want the paint to be too thick. I want it to be able to show the colors that is underneath. But when you use your trowel with this way, you want to just use one side of the trowel, and you want to add a little bit of paint, and you want to do a light. You want to start light, so you know you're not adding too much paint, and then you bring it down, and you just use one side of the trowel. So you want to make sure it's at an angle, and you're holding it at an angle. And you go down, and after I go down, I also go up, because I want it to kind of come together with these colors. Right here, I'm using Linea. Yes, this is Linea. Linea is a beautiful, soft blue, neutral with a blue undertone, a slight blue undertone. So this is really pretty. So I'm adding that in the middle just to have a brighter tone in the middle, and it fades to a softer, warmer tone on the outside. So I'm spraying it with water because I want it to be soft and blend in and look a little more organic. So make sure, like I said, you're using your trowel, holding it at an angle when you're doing this part, because you don't want it to stick on the canvas, and you don't want your trowel to grab on the canvas. And you want to make sure you add water because you want it a thin coat so your colors can show through from underneath. So I'm going up and then I'm going down, and I just keep going back and forth over it until I get the effect that I want. So you can, as you can see here, the Linea, which is a light gray, blue gray, is a cooler, lighter color in the middle, and I'm blending it with a little bit with the Misty Fjord that I have and the Candlelight that I have. And you can see all these colors kind of show through, including the colors that I started with underneath. You may not be able to see it too much here, but you can see it when it's up close. Here I'm actually adding, this is Modern Rattan, and Modern Rattan is a very beautiful, like modern, neutral, warm tone. It's like a medium warm tone. And while my paint's still wet, I'm putting it on here because I want it to blend in just a bit, just a little, because it just feels so organic that way. And that's how I wanted to do it. So you can do it how you want to do it. This is just the effect that I want to do. There's different ways you can do this. So what you do is you add the paint on one edge of your trowel, and you add water, and that softens it a bit, just a bit. And so I decided, I was like, it's in the middle of my canvas, and that wasn't the composition I wanted. So I decided to kind of bring it down a bit and blend with the rest of the colors. And I'm going up here to blend with the neutral colors that I used. And I noticed it was still a little bit more, just not soft enough. So what I did is I wanted to leave a little bit of some brush strokes. So after I played with this trowel on this color, I decided to, so here as you can see, I'm wetting my trowel to add water, just a little bit of water to blend up with my Modern Rattan. So I take my filbert brush, and I wanted to leave brush strokes, so I went over some of the edges and brought it up. And I took what paint that was left on my brush from when I was brushing over it and went in other places to leave brush marks. As you can see the brush marks. And guys, the brush marks and the brush strokes, you know, leave a story. It leaves history, and it just makes the canvas tell a story. So I kind of like to grab some of the paint with the brush and then put it somewhere else to leave a mark. It just leaves, like, I don't know, it just tells a story with these little brush marks that you have. And I'm just kind of going over it. So right here I'm adding the Lux Metallics in the Venetian bronze. So here I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I was trying to get my composition right, and I wanted to add some dark tones to it, and I figured I would just start brushing and I'll figure it out. And all of a sudden I'm getting these crosses that are forming because I just can't get away from it. So I decided to take a filbert brush and kind of soften. I just wanted to soften the Lux Metallics in Venetian bronze. I wanted to almost be like a fade or a shade almost, because I knew I was going to layer it with the Gold Mine Lux Metallics over it anyway. So I didn't want straight lines, so I went over some of the texture that I had from the that I had applied on here using the side of the brush. I don't go straight forward with my brushes. I always use the side of the brush. That way you actually get a better, I don't know, a better line, I guess. And you hold the brush on the end and it actually softens your brush stroke. And I say soften, it leaves a good mark, but it also gives you less control over, or maybe more control that way, because you're not so heavy-handed, but you have control over the brush at the same time, if that makes any sense. So just try it. Move the brush in different directions. Don't bend your wrist. Just hold the brush on the end of the brush and use one side of the brush and just go at different angles and make different brush strokes. Leave different marks because those marks tell a story. Don't be afraid. And I'm gonna go back over it with Venetian bronze after it kind of dries. And as you can see, I'm kind of adding it around it as well because I want it to be a little softer, almost like a shadow, I guess you would say. I didn't want it to be a perfect straight line. Now I'm deciding if I'm going to add Venetian bronze. So I'm actually adding some gold in some areas as well. Whatever's left on my brush, I'm just applying in other locations. And like I said, I hold it on the end of the brush, so I have more control, but I'm not as heavy-handed. And I use a brush in different directions like that. And I love how it just applies different marks on the canvas. And right here, I'm adding some more Venetian bronze Lux Metallics to add a little more texture or visual texture to the piece, and showing some of the lines that was created from the embossing medium. And it seems like I'm creating these crosses. And right now, guys, it's upside down because I ended up putting it the other way. And a trick to this is painting upside down helps you get in your right side of your brain and kind of helps you let loose a little bit more, because I actually decided to finish the painting the opposite way. So I'm still adding the Venetian bronze in different areas. So I add the more intense Venetian bronze in some areas, and then whatever's left on my brush, I go around it to give a softer shade on the piece. And then what I do is actually go back over it with the the Gold Mine Lux Metallics after I add the Venetian bronze. And I'm just softening the Venetian bronze right now so it doesn't look so harsh. And I'm adding a little bit of the Venetian bronze in other areas so it kind of ties it all in. And it kind of looks good with the other marks I have on top anyway. And it gives a little bit of a shadow effect as well when you add the Venetian bronze in other areas with lighter strokes. So it's all about how you use your hands, your brush, how you make marks. You can see the up close and personal. Thank y'all for watching, guys.